Hi everyone, this is Mark Buckles for New Mexico State University Carlsbad. This VoiceThread PowerPoint presents ideas on conversation, with an emphasis on conversational process, the principles of conversation, and common elements of everyday conversations. Among the goals in Learning Module 8 are to learn about how one can become a more exciting and effective conversationalist, and to learn to apply the skills of interpersonal communication in a wide variety of situations. The conversation process occurs whether face-to-face or online. Its variations depend on the specifics of the process's 5 stages or steps. Conversation begins with a verbal or nonverbal greeting, a form of phatic communication which is reciprocated. During the second stage of conversation, the feed-forward provides the focus of the conversation and identifies the tone. In email, the title of the email serves as the feed-forward. The substance of the conversation takes place in the third step or business stage. Conversation is transactional, with both parties adopting the roles of sender and receiver. Usually no permanent record of a conversation exists, and our memory for conversations is reconstructive rather than reproductive. The feedback stage of conversation signals the end of business, and may back up business if one of the parties is not satisfied with the conversation. Remember, one of the principles of conversation is that there is always feedback. Feedback may be delayed, but it will appear. The closing stage signals the end of the conversation when pleasure in the interaction and leave-taking cues are expressed. Conversationalists express conversational wants as speakers with turn-maintaining and turn-yielding cues, and as listeners with turn-requesting and turn-denying cues. Turn-requesting and denying listener cues are clear enough. Back-channeling cues communicate information back to the speaker without trying to assume the role of speaker. Often these cues are nonverbal, communicating agreement or disagreement, involvement, pace, or clarification, and are ignored by a speaker at her own peril. On the other hand, interruptions are not supportive and are often disconfirming. Let's move on to consider some principles of dialogue. Remember that a person in conversation is both a sender and a receiver. Avoid monologue. Conversation is two-way, so take turns and dialogue. The principle of immediacy asks that one be present for the other person. Immediacy asks one to self-disclose, refer to the other's good qualities, and express a positive view of the other. It suggests that one discuss commonalities, demonstrate responsiveness, express psychological closeness, maintain appropriate eye contact, express interest, and focus exclusively on the other's remarks. The principle of flexibility asks that one analyze the specific conversational situation, consider the available choices, while estimating potential advantages and disadvantages, and then competently communicate your choice. In everyday conversations, we make small talk, introduce other people or ourselves, excuse and apologize, compliment, and offer advice. We repair conversational problems with excuses. Good excuse makers accept responsibility for their failures and avoid blaming others. Excuse makers who accept responsibility are perceived as more credible, competent, and likable. The apology is an expression of regret. In many cases, the apology includes a request for forgiveness and an assurance the behavior won't be repeated. An effective apologist doesn't include excuses with the apology. A compliment is a message of praise, flattery, or congratulations. Giving a compliment should be totally complimentary, honest, moderate, and specific. Compliment a person for accomplishment rather than for who they are. Accepting a compliment might consist of a smile with eye contact, a simple thank you, and if appropriate, a brief personal reflection explaining the meaning of compliment and its importance. Meta-advice is advice about advice. As meta-advice, one might encourage the other to explore options and choices, to seek expert advice, and to delay decision to arrive at a more thorough consideration of the choices. In giving advice, one should listen, empathize, be tentative, offer options, respect confidences, and ensure understanding. Avoid should statements as they undermine a person's autonomy. In responding to advice, one might accept what was advised, resist retaliation or criticism of the advice giver, discuss the advice with the advice giver, and express appreciation. This concludes Learning Module 8's PowerPoint lecture on conversation. Next, we'll consider conflict in interpersonal, small group, and workplace relationships and conversations.